Hey guys, I'm Megan.
And I'm Stephanie.
And we are
Barn Besties with Farm Fresh Advice. Here today at Fields and Fences in Gurnee, Illinois with Anita. Where are we, Megan?
Anita, where are we?
We are in the viewing room for what we call the small indoor riding arena. So this was the second edition that was done after we bought the place back in February of 1995. We lost like 3 stalls over there and then kicked the building out all the way across the indoor and did a 3-story addition. So there's 2 stories of viewing over the small indoor, and the 3rd story is my office.
Awesome.
That's crazy. Love that. And you have a kitchen. I love the kitchen.
Little kitchenette. So
it's so helpful. You know, if people are here for a while and they want to bring like a lunch to heat, you've got a little microwave, you've got, looks like a dishwasher,
Yep.
You got your refrigerator.
Yep. And then we have
some storage in the bathroom.
Right behind
I
it.
like the bathroom.
Yeah, I do too. So can we, not to be weird, but can we talk about that? Because in a previous video, you mentioned you have 4 wells, and you're also not on city sewer, so you're on septic systems.
Correct.
Cool.
So how many bathrooms are in the whole facility?
Right now, there's only 4 bathrooms, but there was plumbing put in the floor of the new addition to allow for expansion for more bathrooms.
Okay, so how many septic systems do you have?
There's only 2. There's one for the house, and then there is a gigantic one for the barn.
I was going to say one for the barn.
Yes, so the one for the barn, when this new addition was built, the one for the barn was put in huge. There's 3 tanks before it even gets to the field.
Wow.
So do the horse wash stalls, do they go into that septic? Okay, so like all that goes in.
Yep.
So that would be huge. How often do you have to versus, or how often do you legally have to have them pumped, inspected?
I pump them every year right before the outside shows start. But one year I forgot. Yeah. 1 year I forgot. So it was 2 years before I pumped it, and it was fine. It had just barely gotten to the 3rd tank.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like, it's
Wow.
I'm telling you, it's huge.
Well, I'm sure that, are we in a township here?
We are in unincorporated Lake County here.
Okay. So you're not even in like city limits of Gurnee or anything?
No.
Okay. So, but I'm sure that Illinois has some pretty strict regulations in that, or did your engineer, architect say you're going to need this?
Like, how did you? I said we're going to need this.
Okay,
because
so you did.
I knew that. You have to remember that one of the things I did before I started doing a horse barn is I used to manage high-rise office buildings in downtown Chicago. So I was familiar with the construction process and definitely the maintenance process, because after it was built, then me and my crew were responsible for maintaining it.
Right.
So I knew what I wanted to do here, which was to host horse shows and clinics and have everyday boarders, and that everything had to be big,
right?
Because you're going to be handling a lot of people.
Honestly, I think that is the number one thing people, and Megan, correct me if you think I'm wrong in this, people fail to think about is you have to do it right from the start, because if you have to redo something, it's going to cost you
way more.
The initial cost, and then you're doing it again and then adding on because you're expanding. And it's like, you have to do it right the first time. So having that larger vision, I think, of what your end game is and how big that you potentially can see a facility go is huge.
Always go bigger.
Megan was talking about the other day, she would love to put in a secondary well near her barn to take some of the burden off the one working well. It's things like that. You know what I mean?
And we thought about it. Again, it also boils down to cost.
Right.
You know, at the end of the day, I mean, there's a ton of things I want to do. It all costs money, and we all have a budget.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's also in having the foresight and projections, you know, so if you're like, oh, I want a well at this time, I mean, be able to think about that.
Thinking about in your expansion, because as you said, you built this property and there was this much barn, and then you did your first add-on, and so there was a little bit more, and then you did the big add-on, and now it's bigger, and so you really thought about what your end game was, and you've planned ahead.
Right.
Which I think, honestly, people think they do, but they don't. I think it's really hard because it's hard to have that, that glow, that vision, that future vision and globe of what an end game might actually be. So you do the best you can,
Right.
but yeah, to have that foresight and then, okay, well, I know I want to do this, but when, you're here and you want to be here, and can you afford to put that kind of infrastructure in when you need to? Again, like
Always
Megan
go
said,
bigger.
go
Well,
bigger.
that's just like putting the plumbing into the new addition for more bathrooms. It was cheaper to do it at the time we were building because the concrete floors, once they're poured,
Yeah.
Right.
they're poured.
You don't
And
want to break them up.
You're breaking
Right.
them up and
Yeah.
making a mess. So that's honestly, people, something to think about. Even if you can't necessarily afford to finish in a second bathroom, we'll say, get the plumbing installed and just have it roughed out. And at a future date, when you can, it's that infrastructure is already there.
Right.
Huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's hard because it does add to that initial cost. But you're at the end game, you're saving because that nice concrete floor you put in isn't being destroyed,
Right.
so that you put in your bathroom or your washed all drain or whatever it ends up being. So yeah. Well, this is lovely. So 2 stories, a viewing, and then
And my office.
her
is the
office
third
is the
floor.
third.
Yep.
We did talk about this, or we need to talk about this. You mentioned this. These are at an angle specifically to avoid the glare.
Yeah. So if you're looking into the mirror right now, normally I would have the glare right at my eye level, but it's a little bit lower so I can see past myself in the glass.
Yeah. So just a simple structure thing. Now these are thick walls. So you mentioned earlier you didn't think
These are 2x6s.
these are 2x6. A 2x4 you might not get the right angle, but just as you guys see, the thought of angling this helps with something simple like that. Thinking about it in advance prevents you from going, oh well, now we need to pull all these windows back out and refigure it. And little cool tips like this is what Megan and I are trying to kind of capture and learn and help you guys like put it on your list. Angle those windows and the glare is, you can totally see down the arena. It's perfect.
I love it.
Yeah, it's great. So cool. Are you guys ready to move on to more videos? Learn all the things? Let's do it. Hit the subscribe, right? Click the bell. Leave us questions or comments down below, and we're going to see you on that next video. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.